to mourn the passing of an era, the demise of an institution once held in high regard. Legacy News. For decades, these titans of the media landscape shaped our understanding of the world. They presented themselves as the gatekeepers of truth, the arbiters of reality. Yet over time, their facade began to crumble. The curated sound bites, the carefully crafted narratives, these tools of manipulation could no longer obscure the truth. The rise of podcasting, exemplified by pioneers like Joe Rogan, heralded a seismic shift. No longer were we confined to the rigid structures of traditional media. Instead, we were invited into intimate dialogues where ideas could be explored without censorship or corporate interference. As we bid farewell to Legacy News, let us remember their failures. May they atone for the countless lies, the deliberate distortions, and the suppression of dissenting voices. May they repent for their role in dividing us rather than uniting us. In their place, a new era emerges, an era of authenticity, transparency, and direct engagement, an era where politicians are forced to confront the American people unfiltered and unmasked. So let us honor the passing of Legacy News, not with sorrow, but with a sense of liberation. Let us celebrate the dawn of a new age, where truth prevails and the people are empowered.
1000%. Mainstream media is dead. And they're desperate because of news headings like these. Breaking. On November 11th, CNN recorded its lowest 25 to 54 demo ratings for a Tuesday in nearly 25 years, with only 61,000 viewers.
Well, let me get back to that. So just on CNN and MSNBC, you're absolutely right that they're announcing a bunch of layoffs. Their ratings are destroyed. I think they're down. MSNBC ratings are down like 50% since the election. What that tells me is that their own audience.
Wait, sorry, since the election?
Since the election.
50%?
Yeah. And
oh
what that tells me is that their captive viewer base, who's been tuning in for years to all of this TDS, has now realized that they were deceived by MSNBC, and they've lost credibility even with their most fervent supporters.
Because you've always been sort of the leading edge of where media is going with Politico, now with Axios. You understand the environment so well. How do Democrats, and frankly, how does legacy media need to change the way it thinks about getting information? I mean, a lot of the voters who went out and voted for Donald Trump, that so many people are wondering what happened here, they're not watching, frankly, this show. They're not reading the New York Times. They're not consuming media that way. And the Trump campaign found those voters where they live. So how do Democrats need to change the way they communicate to voters, if you think that's part of the problem?
For sure. I mean, I think all of us have to come to grips with legacy media is just not as important as it thinks it is. It is to you, it is to me. That's a relatively small group of people who rely on us for their information. And you have to go into the world as it is, not as you wish it to be. And basically, the way people get information is shattered into 20, 30 different pieces. And so if you just look empirically at the numbers, Joe Rogan's more important than any of us. He just has a much bigger, hyper-connected audience that listens to his every word. So maybe listen to Joe Rogan and kind of understand, like, what is he talking about? What are the guests that he has on? What are the issues that they care about? Realize that
Did you guys hear him gasp when he said that? I'm going to run it back.
Audience that listens more important than any of us. He just has a much bigger, hyper-connected audience that listens to.
Did you hear it? Joe Rogan is much bigger than any of us.
If you just look empirically at the numbers, Joe Rogan's more important than any of us. He just has a much bigger, hyper-connected audience that listens to his every word. So maybe listen to Joe Rogan and kind of understand, like, what is he talking about? What are the guests that he has on? What are the issues that they care about? Realize that the gravity of right-wing discourse is now taking place on X. It's not Fox. X is what matters. Elon Musk is now, I wrote about this yesterday, arguably the most powerful civilian in the history of the country. He controls information flow. He controls multiple businesses. He has the president's ear. He's going to be in charge of some newfangled organization to gut government spending. We've not seen a person with that kind of clout across those sectors. But where his real power comes from is X. People thought he was an idiot when he bought X because he lost a lot of money. He's got a lot of money. And now he happens to have the most powerful platform on on the right. And politics is downstream from information. And there's just a whole new information ecosystem out there. So for us, for you, for Democrats, for Republicans, you have to understand that you now are going to have to basically navigate 20 or 30 different parts of the ecosystem if you want to connect with the American people who vote.